Hi everyone, welcome back. So as you requested, we're getting into it. Now, trigger warning, I have to get this warning out to everyone. The Princess and the Frog, New Orleans, and Solomon and Gomorrah all are connected, okay? Before we dive into this, I need you guys to be ready, and if you're not, this is not the video for you, so just scroll past it. It talks about sexuality, it talks about racism, it talks about witchcraft, voodoo. It gets very, very, very dark. Okay, guys? So again, if this is not something you want to hear, please just scroll past this video. We're going to dive into this Princess and the Frog, and just let you guys know, when you see me looking down, I'm looking down at my notes that I've written and prepared, because I like to be more organized. Now I feel like, with people actually asking great questions, I want to give you guys information that I feel like I've been missing in other videos, because I've just been doing it off the top of my head. But now I have everything written down so I don't miss key elements of these stories. So yeah, guys, again, also want to remind you guys, always cross-reference the Bible, and always, like we know our slogan is, trust but verify, right? Google is there as your tool, as well as the Bible is there, and as well as our best resource is word of mouth, because a lot of people have seen these things, and some people are afraid to talk, but more and more people are now opening their mouth up. So let's jump into it. So we're going to go in a certain order here, okay, guys? We're going to start with New Orleans first, then we're going to go to Solomon and Gomorrah, then we're going to go down to Princess and the Frog, and it's the reason why I'm going in that order, okay? It's going to correlate. But before we get started, I need everyone to look at this movie poster. As you know, things are hidden in plain sight. Remember, we are talking about the ocean and what is in the ocean and what's in these waters, these swamps, all of this, okay? Swamps, lakes, ocean, water, it's all connected, right? Keep this in mind, okay, guys? All right. So The Princess and the Frog was based in New Orleans in 1920 setting, okay? So we're going to focus in on New Orleans 1920 setting, but also we're going to go just a tad bit before that, just a little bit to know about some of the history, but not all. Just important to know where you came from, to know where you're going, right? But we're going to mainly dive into the 1920s of what the Princess and Frog entire movie is set and based on in New Orleans, okay? This is 1920s in New Orleans. This is a photo from 1920s of New Orleans. This is how it looked. New Orleans was a French colony by indigenous people, and they relied heavily on black people for the city of its existence. True story. Although the Europeans established New Orleans in 1718, they lacked the skills and technology to survive in unfamiliar environments, okay? They didn't have the skills or the technology. 1920s. What type of technology do they possibly need? Remember, in the Bible, it states how when the fallen angels came down and God and man walked this earth together, we had a lot of advanced technology, okay? It says here that the colonists would have starved if it wasn't for the African labor and technology that they heavily depended on. Here are some things that we know about New Orleans, okay? New Orleans became a major hub for the slave trade. When the Spanish came to power in 1763, they relaxed restrictions, allowing the enslaved people to sell their goods to basically get their freedom or their family's freedom with the sold goods that they would sell and make money off of. Enslaved Africans brought their culture here with them. So they went and kidnapped these Africans from different colonies and brought them here to the United States, in New Orleans specifically. In return, these Africans brought over their culture. And their culture, we're going to dive into just how dark it gets, okay? They practiced spiritual practices like voodoo, which was called voodoo, VODUN, but it's now translated to voodoo, and that became the gatekeep of voodoo. New Orleans is the foundation of voodoo here in America. Louisiana voodoo was dominated by women. Many voodoo queens became respected religious leaders. All of this is going to tie in later on again, guys. We're going to have multiple parts to this, so I need you guys to lock in because, baby, we are about to get locked and loaded, and this is about to get real. One of the ways Louisiana was able to survive was by appropriating Catholic saints to stand in for the Lou or spirits of the religion, meaning they had to cross over to Christianity and use Christianity in order to continue the voodoo and have it survive. In 1811, the slaves revolted against the masters, but they lost, and instead the leaders of the revolt was decapitated, and their heads was mounted on pikes along the river, so that all the other slaves could see this, and they will be deterred for any similar ideal of ever trying to revolt in the future. Remember we talked about in our other video about how the devil, these demonic forces, have to instill fear, because once they instill fear in us, they got us. Yeah. Many of the slaves in New Orleans escaped by going to the swamps, making the swamps their home. And due to that, they was able to survive. Keep in mind, guys, we're still on the ocean, we're still about the water, and we're still in the swamps. New Orleans was the largest slave trading center in United States. Yes, New Orleans was the largest slave trading center in United States. And just to kind of pivot off of how God sees slavery, look at what he did to Pharaoh, because Pharaoh had his people enslaved for years and years and years. God did not look highly to slavery. Angola prison was and still is the most notorious brutal prison plantation to this day. We all heard about Angola. Black New Orleans have developed other carnival traditions such as skeletons and the baby dolls, in addition to Mardi Gras, which is basically brought in by the Indians, but Africans until adapted to it, and they would gather on Sundays near St. Joseph's Day. The residents of New Orleans will perform rituals using their musical talents and instruments. We just talked about in our last video about the sirens. We just talked about in our last videos about who had the most beautiful voice in heaven. Okay. Now, let's focus in on 1920. So, to go real fast, what happened in 1920? They had the trunk murders, which was one of the most brutal murders of 1920s. That was the murder of two sisters. Please go Google that and look that up, because I don't want to go in details about that, but that was insane, and that actually happened. This is where the brutal murders took place of the two sisters. And again, just go research that story, because for time's sake, we're not going to get into that. But it was brutal. It was the gumbo yaya. We're about to get into this story real quick, okay? The gumbo yaya. It was about a man named Hans Muller. Hans Muller killed his wife because he found out his wife was cheating and was having an affair, right? He decided to chop her up into pieces and put her body into sausage. Keep in mind, he was a butcher. He owned a butcher shop. He put her body into sausage casings, made her sausage, chopped the sausage up, made a special gumbo. This is where gumbo became a thing in 1920s. Made a gumbo and served it to everybody that came to visit that shop, to the point that that man became famous because his gumbo was so good. Hence gumbo yaya. All to get discovered one day when a customer was eating their gumbo and they bit in a piece of the remnants of his wife's ring. And that is what unfolded this dark, dark murder called the gumbo yaya. Yes. Let's go to part two, guys, real quick. Remember, entertainment purposes only. Part two of Princess and the Frog. Let's dive into it. And so, like I was telling you guys last video, yes, he brutally murdered his wife. He chopped her up, made her some sausage, and he is the one who created gumbo. And his gumbo was so good because they was eating his wife. Got caught because he got caught when a customer was eating remnants of the ring and like, hey, what is this? And they seen it and they're like, wait, what? Wife been missing for a long time. He didn't have an explanation for it. It was 1920s. You know how it went when the person went missing. They didn't do the search they do now, right? Yeah, it was insane. Now, this is about this most craziest part about the story is the man had no remorse. When he was in jail waiting his trial, and they said, hey, you know your wife's mistress is going to testify against you. He said, if I ever get my hands on him, literally telling them when he see him in the courtroom, he said verbatim, I am going to chop him up in smaller pieces than I did my wife, and I'm going to serve him all up and down my butcher shop. Again, this is New Orleans, ladies and gentlemen. This is New Orleans, okay? New Orleans. Also, what happened in the 1920s, Al Capone went to New Orleans because, as you know, the prohibition about alcohol and everything, he went down there demanding imported alcohols. Over hundreds got killed, including Al Capone. I think his fingers got either bent back or I think it was bent back or chopped off or something. Sent him back home to New York. Also a popular saloon, very popular saloon that was very, very popular. We know what a saloon is. It's a prostitution house, okay? We're not gonna sit here and sugarcoat anything, okay? Again, this is about to get very dark. It's about to get very intel. If you're not ready for this information, please keep scrolling. Even though drinking was illegal, New Orleans restaurants still found a way around, right? So even though they have a law that says, hey, you can't do this, New Orleans said, okay, hold my beer. We can, we're about to. They had secret rooms on the second floor of these restaurants. They had secret windows. You would go to the restaurants and order lunch menu items and it'd be alcohol. So basically, New Orleans just did not care. From day one, they just did not care about rules, laws, anything. They did what they wanted because guess what? They seen themselves as a higher power, as a god. And we're going to get into what I mean by that. Also, because of so much illegal activities in the 1920s, it brought the most dangerous, notorious gangsters into the city. Silver Dollar Sam, if you may know. Google Silver Dollar Sam. You'll know who he is. For time's sake, I'm not gonna go into him for that much, but he was a New Orleans crime mafia family. And also they had the Black Hand Gang. Basically, they had some of the most notorious gangsters in New Orleans in the 1920s. Okay, and then also let's talk about the voodoo in New Orleans. Okay, the voodoo, the core belief of New Orleans voodoo is that one, God does not interfere with daily life, but spirits do. I'm gonna read that again for you guys, okay? The core belief of New Orleans voodoo is that one God does not interfere in their daily lives, but their spirits do. Okay. Also, they had these dolls, I don't want to say the name, and they had potions and talismans. Remember that? Talismans. Are found in stores, homes throughout the city, a reminder of New Orleans' fascination with spirits, magic, and mystery. Voodoo practices includes reading cards, which includes those tarot cards as you see right here, spiritual baths, prayer, and even personal ceremonies. It is used, and I need everybody to please listen to this. Listen, this is very, 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 very important. It used these voodoo practices to cure anxiety, addiction, feelings of depression, loneliness, help the poor, hungry, and the sick. Yes, these people use voodoo practices, and I'm going to repeat this again, to cure anxiety, addiction, feelings of depression and loneliness, help the poor, feed the hungry, and heal the sick. And also talk to the dead, aka in their sense of raising the dead. Now, who does that sound like they're trying to be like? Who does that sound like they're trying to be like? Jesus. Did Jesus not come on this earth? Did he not do all those things? Yeah. Again, we're about to get into how all this is going to connect. Okay. Again, all of this connects to the Bible. We're going to get into it, honey. Let's go. The city of Solomon and Gomorrah. Yes. Y'all see me smiling because I'm going to be honest with you. I love, love, love the Bible. Okay. Side note. If y'all ever want to just be entertained, read this Bible because I'm telling you, the Bible is so entertainment. And man, the boldness of these people in Solomon and Gomorrah. I'm telling you, okay? Let's jump into it. We finna jump into the facts that only pertains to the Princess and the Frog in New Orleans. The story of Solomon and Gomorrah, okay? I'm gonna read it verbatim for you guys. It appears in the book of Genesis and referenced throughout the Old and New Testament and Testaments. The story begins in Genesis 18 when three angels appeared to Abraham, his name was Abram, but it changed to Abraham, of course, who prepares a feast to welcome them. God then reveals his plans to destroy Solomon and Gomorrah, and Abraham asks if God can spare any righteous people who live there. God agrees to spare the city if 50 righteous people can be found. Pause. Y'all know how many people live in a city, right? Okay, so imagine if you say, God, please spare the city, and God say, you know what, fine, I'll do that for you, but go ahead and find me 50, just 50, not even 10% of the population. Find me 0.5% of the population that's righteous, and I'll spare them. You think they found them? You think they found them? No. Lot was the only person in that city of righteousness. Come on now. That right there tells you how demonic, how evil this city was. Yep. He said the cities then will be destroyed by stones raining down from the earth. Keep in mind, okay, something to keep in mind. The people of Solomon and Gomorrah was the first people on this earth to commit certain indecencies, aka sins. They was the first human beings on this earth to commit certain sins. For a Bible reference, because I hear you guys and I'm always referencing the Bible, read Genesis chapter 19. This is Genesis chapter 19 Bible reference, okay, guys? The meaning of the story of Solomon and Gomorrah is a parable about God's anger at human sin and his hospitality towards people despite their flaws. The cities are often used as symbols of human wickedness and divine retribution. We just got done hearing about New Orleans, 1920, right? Wickedness, right? Okay. Again, let's tie it together. Location. Where is Solomon and Gomorrah right now? It is underwater in the Dead Sea. Its exact location is in the Dead Sea is unknown, but it is in the Dead Sea. Where it is in the Dead Sea, God ain't gonna let them find it. They've been trying to find it. Again, I believe that God stops us at a certain point because we don't need to go too far into stuff. Because if so, we'll open up. Man, listen, humans will open up all kind of loopholes and wormholes and stuff, and God has to say, chill, stop." Okay, so yes, it's in the dead. It's underwater in the Dead Sea. Hence the name Dead Sea. And keep in mind, in the Dead Sea, what is the Dead Sea filled with? A lot of salt. When you put stuff in the Dead Sea versus other oceans, what happened? It gets, what do you call it? It gets, I forgot that, crystallized by salt. We're finna jump into how this salt comes hand in hand. Okay, let's go ahead and jump to the next video for part 3, guys. Please remember to like and comment. I love listening to you, looking at you guys' comments, reading it. Even for the negativity ones, guess what? They still watch the video. So hey, like the Bible's like God says, if you even hear the truth, even if it's one time, you're still gonna be accountable. Okay, so hey, let's like it and let's keep going on, guys. Part 3 next. Okay, guys, welcome back to part 3. For you guys that are just now tuning in, we are talking about the Princess and the Frog and how it's connected to Solomon and Gomorrah, and also how it's connected to New Orleans' dark history of magic, voodoo, witchcraft, and all that. Also, side note, I do have a speech impediment, so I'm so sorry if I pronounce words wrong or I have and also I'm from Texas and I have a deep Texas South accent, if you can tell. So I'm so sorry about those two things, guys. bear with me. But also another thing is I want to address, yes, I do intentionally say a lot of these names wrong because I am not about to sit here and basically talk these things up. No, I believe there's power in the tongue, and like the Bible says, do not tempt. I'm not tempting them. So a lot of these names I'm going to pronounce wrong, but you see the spelling. I have it in the caption. You want to go Google it yourself. Me personally, I believe in the power of the tongue. So yeah, let's get started. Let's get back into it. Okay, guys, so the reason behind the end of this city, for those of you who are speculating, like, okay, why would God destroy the city? That's so cruel, right? Okay, let's go ahead and talk about this, okay? So I'm gonna read verbatim what happened, and I'm gonna tell you my words because, again, I like to help those who want to understand the Bible in today's terms, right? Two angels came down from heaven to visit Lot. While the angels and Lot prepared to eat the meal Lot had prepared for them, all the men from every part of the city of Solomon came, young and old, came outside of Lot house, okay? Yes, we finna, this is, came to the man's house. Out, they all rally around his house and they yelled out to Lot saying, "Where are the men who came with you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them." Young and old men crowded this man's house and said this. Now, I'm gonna be very honest with you, okay? Pause. They bold for that one. They is bold. They came out and said, "Lot, where are them two men that came in this city at with you? Bring them out so we can have sex with them." Okay, hold on. Lot then came outside, shut his door so they wouldn't go inside. And then Lot turned and said, "Hey," he offered them his two virgin daughters who's never had sex. He said, "Hey guys, I have two daughters. They're virgins, never had sex. Their purity, here. Go ahead and take them, right? But leave my guest alone." Here is the response these men said to Lot. Again, the Bible is so entertaining, okay? So entertaining. The men replied and yelled at Lot and said, "Get out the way. We ain't trying to hear that. Bring them men to us. Matter of fact, we're going to go get them." They tried to force their way to the door to go get these two men and have homosexual activity with them. Yes. Baby, they is bold, because if that was me, again, back to Moses' story, God know who he uses, okay? He know how he made us. If that was me, I would have came and I would have spent the block about 7 times on them, okay? I would have spent that block, hint, 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 about 7 times on them folks, okay? Who you come, like, who else? They bold in Solomon and Gomorrah. They are bold, okay? And so when this happened, the two angels intervened and they blinded all the men so they could not see the door. Remind you, blinding is very, very important. It comes up a lot in the Bible now. Then the two angels, the two men who are angels, said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, sons in laws, daughters, or anyone in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here." This is also Genesis, God, by the way, Genesis chapter 19, verse 12 through 13. "Because we are going to destroy this place, the outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." Genesis 19, 15 through 16. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and two daughters who are here, and or you will be swept away with the city that is about to be punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hands and his hand of his wife and the two daughters and led them safely out the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away." Here's an illustration of what it looked like of the angels grabbing them and bringing them out the city, and letting them know right here at this moment, this rock, saying, "Hey, flee. Don't look back. Do not look back. Flee and don't stop." Right? Now, the importance of why God did not want them to look back is because keep in mind, all of those things are of the world. Materialistic things that we have of value, everything that we have is of the world. And if you're of the world, it's of sin, right? So God did not want them to look back and reminisce on what they had. No, He has something greater for you in the future, right? So this is why it's very important that when God said move, you move and don't look back. But guess who looked back? Lot's wife. She sure did. Let me read right here for you. Genesis 19 and 26. But Lot's wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. Salt. Lot's wife looked back as God was destroying the city after he gave a strict order not to. And there she go right there. Yes, that is really Lot's wife. To this day, she can be found. And guess where she is? She is located next to the Dead Sea. You see that ocean right there, honey? That's the Dead Sea. That ocean right there is the Dead Sea, and that right there is Lot's wife, the pillar of salt. God says, since you look back, I'm gonna go ahead and make you look back forever in eternity. He turned to a pillar of salt, locking eyes on that city he destroyed of sin forever in eternity. The metaphysical meaning of lots is covering, veiling, muffling, hidden, concealed, covet, secrecy, black art, magic, sorcery, dark colored, and sadness. This is the meaning of Lot's story and of Solomon and Gomorrah, which why they was destroyed. I'm gonna read these few ones back for you. Black art, magic, sorcery, dark colored, and sadness. We're getting there, huh? Y'all see the correlation now? Princess and the Frog, New Orleans, Solomon and Gomorrah. We're getting there somewhere, guys. Now, the Princess and the Frog, we say the best for last. So, as you see, let's do a little recap real quick. We started off with the history of New Orleans of 1920s, and then we went into Solomon and Gomorrah, as you see why that tied in together. And now we're about to bring it on home with the Princess and the Frog. Everybody, please stay tuned. Let's go ahead and go to part 4 because I want this to be a fresh video. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you, and let's go ahead and part 4. Okay, so guys, remember in the beginning, my very first video on this one, we took a look at just the posters again, because you know these movie posters be telling the story. I'm being honest with you, it be telling us a lot of stuff. Now, again, her movie poster, the swamp, water, we're talking about the ocean. Right? Okay, yep. Let's get into The Princess and the Frog. Okay, so the ending message of the entire movie is love being the most important thing of all, trumping financial, magic, and professional success. That is what Disney said is the ending message of this movie. So let's talk about some key elements in Princess and the Frog. As you know, this is Tiana. Tiana Dream, she is a waitress in New Orleans who wants to open up her own restaurant. Prince Naive visits. Prince Naive visits New Orleans to find a rich woman to marry. As you know, remember when we talked about the history of New Orleans? Who was the dominant species in New Orleans? Women, because they controlled what? Magic, voodoo, witchcraft, wizardry, right? Yeah. So this prince went to New Orleans to go find a rich woman to marry. Tiana earns enough money for her restaurant, but she's outbid by another buyer. Remember how I said that the devil will act like he tries to give you gifts or whatever when he really can't. So he'll basically take something from you and then come back and try to say, hey, here you go. But he needs an exchange for something. If you need reference to that in the Bible, Job. Read the book of Job, honey, because that is all up and down there, okay? Um, the frog mistake. Okay, so I'm sorry. She wishes upon a star, and a frog, Naeem, the prince, appears. Tiana and Naeem, the prince, they kiss. The frog mistakes Tiana for a princess and suggests that she kisses him, and he will turn her into a human and pay for the restaurant. Tiana kisses Naeem and turns to a frog too. Hmm. Remember, we're talking about the key events in The Princess and the Frog before we dive into what all this means, okay? Um, Tiana and Prince goes to visit Mama Odie's and she shouts. Mama Odie shouts, "Why you didn't tell me my gumbo was burning?" That's what she shouts. "Why you ain't tell me my gumbo was burning?" Mm-hmm. Gumbo. Remember that, okay? Tiana and Naive marriage. Tiana and Naive married while still frogs and turn back into humans. Tiana becomes a princess and is married to the prince of, Naive, right? Doc, the Shadow Man. Let's call him a Shadow Man. I'm not calling him a doctor. Shadow Man, okay? Shadow Man was the son to Mama Odie. So for those of you who did not catch that drift, yes, he was the son to Mama Odie. In Disney's earlier script, pay attention, guys. In Disney's earlier script, there was supposed to be a major battle between Mama Odie and her son, the Shadow Man, during the Mardi Gras festival. Remember what I told, but it was cut from the script. Remember what I told you guys, how they desensitized everything to the media, right? Right. So it was cut from the original script. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I found it very fascinating doing my research and everything that a lot of stuff was. This is like one of the only scripts that Disney had that they had to keep remaking and remaking and remaking and remaking before they actually made the movie. I'm like, huh, right? Mama Odie's husband was Juju, the snake. Yep, that snake that she had around her neck and everything, that was her husband. Um, Her husband, just like Tiana and Naveen, was transformed into a snake or animal of some kind. Side note: remember how the Bible speak of how the demons and devil and then were transformed into certain things or animals and stuff and figures. Yeah, keep that in mind, okay? And also it's called shape shifting what they do, but yeah, keep that in mind. Um, the original script, back to the original script. Tiana was originally named Maddie. Mm-hmm. Tiana was originally named Maddie and was a slave to a white family. Due to today's sensitivity, Disney had to change it, and they changed it and renamed the girl Tiana, and instead of making her a slave to a white family, they made her a cook slash chef to this white family. There my girl go right there. Hey Tiana girl. Okay, so Mama Odie, okay, lived deep within the swamps. She did. And guess what Mama Odie was? She was a voodoo priestess. That means, those powerful women we talked about in earlier videos about in 1920s, they had the most powerful women that was like the leaders of this voodoo. Mama Odie was one of those. Guess how long she lived for, guys? 197 years. They reported that Mama Odie was 197 years old in the movie. She was also blind. Remember, blindness, right? Come on now, let's put all it together, guys. Let's put it together. And they also said she possessed great magical powers, almost similar to those of Jesus. But she's not Jesus, though. During Shadow Man's song, he says, "I'm royal myself" on my mom's side. He then holds up the head that resembles his mom, implying that's his mother, and it's a shrunken head. And again, just go ahead and research for time's sake and also for sensitivity's sake. We're not gonna get into them shrunken heads now. That's a whole different realm right there. But yeah, look at that shrunken head. I put the pictures in comparison for you guys to make it better. Look at the shrunken head. Look at Mama Odie. That's Mama Odie. That's definitely Mama Odie. Okay. Now, I need you to understand something. In the script, Disney said that Tiana suffered from a disease called zoophilia, which is a sexual disorder involving attractions to animals or desire to have sexual contact with animals, aka abomination under God. You're not supposed to sleep with animals. We all read the Bible on that one, okay? Again, Google is there for your research. No, but they made her have this disability. Crazy, right? The same thing that the fallen angels did when they came here on Earth to mix them DNAs up and stuff. They was sleeping with animals to try to mix up different DNAs, and that's how they got all these centaurs and things like that. Yeah. Shadow Man last words before he disappeared was, "I promise I'll pay y'all back. I promise." Yeah. Shadow Man also wasn't showed dying ever in the movie. He wasn't. He was showed being snatched into the underworld once his talisman was destroyed and crushed by Balloon, right? He was never showed dying. He was snatched into the underworld. What does them sirens and what does them demonic forces do in the ocean? Is there a body left behind? Can we find a body every time someone magically disappeared in the ocean? Hmm. Again, are we correlating what's in the ocean? Look what Disney's telling us right now. Disney is telling us right now, clear plain sight. They snatched him to the underworld, leaving nothing behind. It was a tombstone left though, and the tombstone only had his face that was pictured in fear on it. Now I'm gonna read this, guys. Okay, I'm gonna read it verbatim. Shadow Man was based on Michael Jackson. Yes, the Michael Jackson. I'm gonna leave that one right there, okay? Because if you know, you know. Even though Shadow Man was based on Michael Jackson, his character and traits were inspired by a real voodoo deity, okay? There you go. Right there, the name. There you go. I'm not saying that name. I'm not. Because when I went to go research this again, our theory here is, guys, trust but verify. When I went to go research that, I'm gonna show you the weirdest thing and honestly almost impossible that happened. Nothing on Google about it. To the point where Google is saying, "Hey, this comes up." So basically, when there's nothing on Google about, like they cannot find anywhere on the internet whatsoever about something, this message pop up here saying, "Hey, let us know about it. We may not respond, but just want to hear about it. What you can't find on here." This deity have been around for centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries. Keep in mind, the Shadow Man was based off of this. Well, no, his characteristics was off of this deity. Why can't we find him online? You can't search it. All I'm gonna say is research it. Let's get into part 4. Again, this stuff is getting very real. It actually low key got scary last night. I had to stop and say Jesus Christ's name like 15 times. Okay, let's get in part 4, guys. Remember, entertainment purposes only.